How is it November already? I feel like I just posted my October budget a few days ago. I understand that my October budget must have been a little controversial for some people, but I am just trying to keep it real over here, and I really wanted to document where I started in this journey. I wrote that budget based off of everything that I was doing and paying at the time. But it's November now, so it's time to revise that October budget. I'm gonna go over everything that I've canceled, any changes that I've made, any additions, and see where that leaves me for this month. I'm just gonna let you know right now that this video might be a tad bit long because I am gonna go through each of the line items that I went through last month and explain any of the changes that I've made and why I decided to do them. I think that might be helpful for someone who finds themselves in my same position, either now or down the line. Cutting things out of my budget is not easy. And to think that before my October budget, I had already cut out a lot of things. Some of these decisions were a little bit harder for me than one might think. Personal finances are personal. I understand that. However, I have been very grateful for all the feedback that I have received. It has helped me think about each line item in my budget in a different way. Whether I have decided to go that direction or not, it has been extremely helpful. So I am hoping that by explaining why I'm making the changes that I'm making, it will be helpful to somebody else. If you are new here or this is the first time you're seeing one of my videos, hi, my name is Jen. I am 47 years old for a few more weeks, and I am on a personal debt payoff journey, as well as learning how to manage my expenses and my finances. I am recently, or somewhat recently, separated, and if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I am just gonna put this disclaimer out there. Most of my expenses were made based off of a 2-income household. When my ex-husband moved out of the house, I remained with all of the expenses as well as my debt. So that is why much of it is high, and I am learning how to navigate managing that on my income alone and some side hustles. So with that being said, let's get into it. So what I have up on the screen is my October budget, the way that I presented it a few weeks ago. I'm gonna go through the actuals, and then we will look into what I will be changing going into November. Some of it I may touch on here, but then we will go back to the setup page and make the changes in real time and then see what November is looking like. So this can either go really well or it can go really bad. I am hoping it works out, and if it doesn't, then I will change my method for the next time. One change that I did make is that in the setup file that we will review later, I did change all the numbers to whole numbers. I had already had all my transactions filled out, and those were actual numbers, so I didn't want to switch all of those to whole numbers, but for the next time, I will, just to make it a little bit easier to say out loud and to follow along. So just bear with me on this one. I changed part of it and I didn't change the actual transactions. So the summary is here. The actuals is way lower than the budgeted because I did put money into savings. One thing to note is that my income is about $1,000 more than what I budgeted. That is because I am keeping it pretty conservative when it comes to the side hustle money. I am budgeting for the lowest amount that I expect to receive. In October, I had a pretty good month. I didn't have a lot of prior commitments or family events that I had to attend to, so I had a few more extra hours that I could work. I was able to make a little extra money. That is why there is a big difference in income. I will go over the income. My first paycheck of October actually was lower than I had budgeted. When I realized that my check was lower than I had expected it to be, I was a little concerned, and it did cause me to look into everything else. Because I have everything so automated, I don't check my statements or my pay stubs or anything like that like I probably should, and that I'm going to start doing. My budgeted amount on that check was $2,948, and my actual was $2,916. For my second paycheck of the month, my budgeted amount was $3,125, and then my actual was 3,222. And I explained that in my last video why, but that's because it included a reimbursement that I got for my job for my side hustle. Each week I had budgeted $500 of income, and each week was higher than $500. The first week was $672. The second week was $686. The third week was $566. And the fourth week was $718. From reselling, I am still waiting for some money to come in, so I'm not going to include it in October, obviously, because I haven't been paid out yet, but I have $189. I know that sounds low, and I looked into this. The last few months of reselling have been lower than I would like, mostly because I tried out a new program with Poshmark and it's a total flop. So I am going to end that consignment program with them, and I'm just going to start reselling the way that I used to. And I'm going to start with mostly the things in my closet because I have a ton that I need to get rid of. So I am hoping in the next few months that that number will slowly increase. Underneath reselling, something that is new that I didn't have when I went through this budget last time, I have a line item with each of the initials of my kids. As they give me money to reimburse me for things, I will have it added on this list as income. So after adding all of those line items, my expected income was $8,073, and my actual income for October was $9,091. Okay, so now we will skip over to monthly bills. My mortgage, it was $2,822. My HOA, it was $378. My car, I need to round that up to $659. I missed out on the 14 cents when I did the budget. So my car is actually $659. So then we have Comcast, which is $70. T-Mobile, $70. My medical payment, $72. So then we get into the Affirm loans. Now, the actuals on here are pretty high because I did pay them off this month. So they will not be on the November budget. But what I did pay was $40, $15, $86, and $390. The eBay store, I did not cancel that one, and it's $22. This next line item, it's my inventory management software for reselling. I did not cancel that. I still need it, but I did reduce the plan. I took off some of the features that I wasn't really using, and that lowered that amount to that subscription to $25. The gym for my son, we canceled that. So I did pay it in October, but it will not carry over to November. The car wash subscription, I did cancel that, and I canceled it prior to getting charged in October. So I did not pay for that this month. My Spotify, I am not canceling that right now. I did lower my plan, and I took off a feature that was on there, and it is $16.99. I understand that many people get a lower Spotify account or a free account. My account is also a family account, and I am going to keep my family account for right now. And so instead of $20, it is $17. Netflix, unfortunately, went up. When I went to go look into whether I was going to cancel Netflix or not, I saw that it was going up in price. So the plan that I had was originally budgeted for like $22, and it was going up to $32. I made some adjustments on the plan, and I got it to $27, which is not a lot of savings, and it is more than what I originally had in my budget. However, that is one streaming service that I'm not ready to get rid of yet. If I decide to make any changes, I will in the future. But as of right now, I decided to keep that one, and I have $27 that I am going to have to budget in for November. This Posh subscription, I did cancel that, and I canceled it before I was charged in October. So that will not be carrying over. My Canva subscription, I had to pay in October, but I did cancel that one. I am going to try to use the free version. There were a lot of premium features that I used. However, I'm going to see if I can either find something else to replace that is free, or see if I can make it with the free version. Otherwise, I will be adding that subscription back in the future. But I did cancel it for right now, and we will see how that goes. This Posher VA, I don't think I need it right now. My reselling took a little bit of a dip a lot of bit of a dip. And I explained that in a previous video, so I'm not gonna go into all the details. So I decided to cancel it for right now. And if I get to a point to where I am making the amount of sales that I was making in the past, I will bring that back. The Real subscription, I canceled that and I didn't get charged in October. My Paramount subscription, I canceled that and I did not get charged in October. This line item, the Gem Med Spa, I received a ton of comments on it. That line item is the plan that I am paying for Botox. I am not going to get Botox again. However, this has to stay in my budget because I am paying off a balance. I am going to move it though to my debt section for November so that it is not in my fixed expenses section. However, I do need to pay it off. I need to continue paying it. So it will remain on the budget, but this is not a line item for planned purchases. This is just paying off what I owe. The next line item is iStorage. That is for my storage unit. And I did reduce the cost on that by, I don't know, $12. I am not getting rid of the storage unit just yet. I do not have an extra room. I do not have a basement. I do not have space in my garage. I cannot get rid of the items that I have in storage. So for right now, I am going to keep that storage unit. I am going to work on either making room, if possible, in my garage to empty out that storage or something else. But at this point in time, I have to keep it. So the last item on here is Blinkify, which was my lash subscription. I have canceled the monthly subscription of lashes. I do have some supplies still. What I decided to do here is I am not going to continue getting supplies monthly. I am going to use what I have sparingly. I don't have lashes on right now. I haven't in my last few videos. And so I am only going to use them on, if I have a special occasion or I need a pick-me-up, something like that. So I'm not going to use them every week so that what I have currently will last. And then if I need to replenish that, it will come out of like my personal care fund and I will just order what I need, and instead of having that reoccurring cost, because I don't need them every month at this time if I'm not doing them every week, if that makes sense. So I canceled that before I was charged for October, so I did not pay for that this month. If I go down to the totals, it's kind of skewed because of the fact that I made that extra payment on those Affirm loans. So I'm not really gonna go over it, but I guess we can see in November if the amount is lower. I mean, it will be lower. All right, so then we will go into the variable expenses for October and what has changed. Also for November, my gas, my electricity, my water bill, and my cell phone will be moved over to monthly bills instead of under variable expenses. My gas bill was budgeted for $74 and it was actually $88. I budgeted $106 for my electricity bill. It was $106. My water bill, I budgeted $57. It was $57. My cell phone bill. Let's talk about my cell phone bill. My cell phone bill was $514. I knew exactly what that was going to be. My cell phone bill, I've already explained why it is what it is. However, what I didn't mention is that also includes payments on actual devices. There's one device, which is mine, which has a high payment on it. The other devices are about to be done, so those will eventually fall off. One is my daughter's. She's going to start paying for that. And then the other two devices were gifts that I gave. So I am not charging my son and my daughter for their devices. They are almost paid, but I am not charging them for their devices when I gifted it to them. But they will be taking over the payments for their service. I also went through my bill on Verizon and realized that there were some services that I was paying for that I did not need. I did cancel the service on my watch. Some other things that were on there. It was like some storage that we didn't use, some family plan. I don't even know what some of those features were, but they were like $5 here, $10 there. I had an insurance plan on there, but I also have Apple Care that I pay for monthly. So I was able to cancel the insurance plan and that reduced my bill. And we will go over the new bill amount when I go over the November budget. Groceries. I went over in groceries, and I think because in the beginning of the month, I wasn't as aware of what I was spending on as I was towards the end of the month. There were some days where I was going to order out, but we decided to, go to the grocery store and get something that maybe we wouldn't have normally have made, so that also made the grocery bill a tiny bit higher. I am still gonna leave $800 in the budget because I do believe that we can get under $800. So for gas, I budgeted $500. I only spent $285. Part of it is because my son put gas in my car a few times, so that reduced how much I had to pay for gas. For November, I may lower the amount a little bit. I do, though, want to be very careful. I'd rather over budget than under budget when it comes to gas. I'm treading lightly there, but I did have $215 remaining. Water delivery. I am not canceling water delivery, but I am reducing my water delivery. I don't know how much that's going to save me though, but I do know that there is a $14 delivery fee, and I was getting delivery twice a month, so I'm reducing that to once a month. I'm gonna look to see how that looks like for November and then decide from there. Some thoughts that I had was to purchase my own water cooler because I do know I pay a rental fee for the water cooler. I do not have like a functioning water dispenser in my fridge, but I am working to reduce that cost. So next is a line item that everybody seemed to have a very strong opinion on, and that is my nails. And yes, I understand it is a lot of money, and I understand that it's a want and not a need, all those things. This is something that's very, very hard for me to give up. However, I decided to try. Now, it may not look like it because I do have my nails done now, but let me explain. I decided to try and give up getting my nails done. I cannot paint my own nails. I tried that. I did that during, 2020, and it was a hot mess. I ordered all the things, I got the light, I did all of that. No, it didn't work. But what I am going to try now are the press-on nails. I'm going to try those and see how I feel about them. And many people will be like, just get rid of it completely, blah, whatever. That's not what I'm gonna do right now. Maybe eventually I'll get there. And you may not agree with me, and that's perfectly fine. But it's just one of those things that I want to have my nails done. And before saying I can't not get them done professionally at all, I am going to try a solution, and that's going to be press on nails. I think that will cost me maybe $40 a month. If that, I might like it, I might love it, I might hate it. I don't know. However, when I called my nail tech to find out how much it would cost to remove my nails so that I can start doing the press on nails, she offered to do my nails at no charge this month. So I did not pay for my nails, but I did get my nails done. So I will not be budgeting $160 for my nails for November. I may put $40 in there for November just in case I have to buy the press-ons and the supplies, but it will not be $160. And that was a tough decision for me to make, and it may sound very superficial, it may sound very stupid to some of you guys, but this was something that it took me a few weeks, and I had to really convince myself to give this a try. That's where we are with the whole nail thing. For dining out, I did budget $200. I only spent $112. The US Bank Reserve line, I didn't have to make a payment this month, but next month I am going to start budgeting $50 to pay that. So then the last two line items were Amazon and Target. Now, these are not accounts. This is just what I have seen that I have spent at those stores in the past. And I went over on both of them. Some of the stuff that I bought at Target and even Amazon were things that I got reimbursed from my son and my daughter for. So technically I did not go over, but I did go over here. Going forward, I am not going to have a line item for Amazon or Target. What I noticed in my spending on Amazon, I have my list of transactions, but I think most of it was just like office supplies. I purchased a book, some things like that. And in Target, it's pretty much some grocery items and some household items and some personal care like body wash and, things like that. So like I said, you see there's a negative here because I technically went over, but it does even out with the money that I was given from my son and my daughter. For the unplanned expenses, it does look extremely high. It's $703. From that, I did have a driving ticket that I had to pay. That was $238. I had a prescription that I had to pay for. It's the last refill. That was $229. That will be reimbursed from my HSA. So I will be getting that money back. And also my oil change was included in there, which was $110. And then there was some random things. There was a subscription that I forgot about that came out of my account. I did cancel that subscription, so I will not be adding it to like my fixed expenses or anything like that. But that was unplanned because I didn't have it on the budget. I had my Google storage that I forgot about, my Google Nest subscription that I am not getting rid of. And I think that's it. There was a few other things like my templates for the Budget Mom that I wasn't planning on buying. That's in unplanned. And I don't know, there was a few other transactions. Going forward, I do not want this unplanned amount to be this high. And that should eventually come out of like savings that I have. But that's where we're at right now. So then my debt payments. I had $760 for my upgrade loan, $145 budgeted for Chase. It was $143, $110 for Capital One. Nordstrom, I had $94 budgeted. My minimum was $89. PayPal, I had $143 budgeted. My minimum was $135. TJ Maxx, I think my auto pay is set for $50. So I paid $50, even though I had $42 budgeted. And then my Express card. I made an extra payment of $1,000 to my Express card. And so I paid $1,065 to Express. I believe I have about $300 left to pay. So that card will be paid off in November, hopefully. Sephora, $60. And then my Apple card. I have multiple Apple subscriptions that honestly, if I'm being real honest, I forgot about because they're coming out of that Apple card. So I paid them for this month, $225. That's including the minimum payment that I had to pay. I did get refunded for one of the subscriptions, and that was $35 because I had canceled it and I don't know why I still got charged for it, but I was able to get refunded for that. And then all the other subscriptions I did cancel, except my Apple Care and my iCloud. Those two I am keeping, and those I will pay monthly. So when I make my monthly payment to my Apple card, it will be my minimum payment plus the payment for those two items. Hopefully that made sense. But my actual debt payment for this month, I had $1,471 budgeted, and I actually paid $2,637. Oh, I didn't say, even with all those expenses, I did manage to put some money in savings. It's not a ton, but I am starting my savings accounts. And for October, what I have is my emergency fund that I'm starting. I'm putting $700, and then I have a just in case, which is $500. And I received mixed reviews on how I should handle this. But my emergency fund is where I'm putting money that I will eventually want to grow to 6 months to a year of my expenses. My just in case is my buffer on my checking account for unplanned expenses and things like that. I just cannot get in the habit of dipping into that emergency fund for like my driving ticket, or I got a flat tire and I need to pay. I am going to work on building little funds for those things. So right now, I don't have a lot of disposable money to put into different savings accounts just yet. So for right now, I have my emergency fund that I'm starting with $700, and that is going to be kept in a high yield savings account. And then I have my $500 just in case savings that is going to be kept in my savings account that I have with Chase with my checking account. And then I'm going to start a personal care sinking fund, and I started that with $50. And this is for personal care items that I need. It is not for my nails. I may take my lashes out of there if I need them, but right now I don't see myself ordering any for a while. But that is more for the things that I need to have replenished every few months for myself. So I did put $1,250 into savings this month. So yeah, so that's October. All right, so I am going to put up on the screen the November setup page from this budget tracker. I also received a few questions regarding what budget tracker I'm using, and I will put a link of the one that I'm currently using for anybody interested in checking it out. Okay, this is the setup page. This is pretty much the same setup page that I used for October. The one thing about this budget tracker is that if I make the changes in this setup page in advance, then it also changes all the other pages. So that's why I did not make the changes ahead of time, because I wanted to make sure I went through October. And I know I could have done like screenshots and things like that, but I didn't. So here we are. When it comes to my pay, I am going to change the budget amount for my paycheck because I made two changes. I did increase my 401k contributions to 5%. So my company matches the first 3% at 100, and then they match an additional 2% at 50. So as I had mentioned in my video a few weeks ago, I felt like I was leaving money on the table. A lot of people agreed with me. So I went ahead and upped that contribution. Like I had said when I reviewed the October budget, there was something on my paycheck that caused it to be lower. And so I investigated in that. It turns out that my gym membership did increase. I may have received a notice. I don't know, to be honest with you. If I did, it was through email and I must have missed it. So in the month of October, I did have a higher deduction on my paycheck for that gym membership. And if you remember, my gym membership was $176 deducted out of my paycheck. That was a gym membership that was for me and my ex-husband, and he was paying for my car insurance because I was paying for his gym membership. However, that gym membership went up to $209, and it was no longer worth it to me to keep it. If I look at it for what it was, I was just paying for that gym membership so I wouldn't have to pay for my car insurance because I really wasn't going. Do I love that gym? Yes. Did I used to go every day? Yes. However, recently, because of the side hustles that I'm doing and because of work, I haven't been going. So I decided that it just wasn't worth it for me to keep that gym membership. So I started looking into the car insurance policy that we have and seeing how much it would be for me on my own. I reached out to my ex-husband and I explained to him, hey, I can't pay for this gym membership anymore. He did decide to continue paying my car insurance for me, and I still canceled the gym membership. So that is a win for me. I will no longer have the gym membership deduction on my paycheck. However, because of the increase in my 401k contribution, I believe my paycheck will be around $3,000 for each paycheck. I'm not sure yet. I don't know how that will change with taxes and whatnot. I am going to change the budgeted amount to $3,000 for both pay periods. And then we will see how that changes. For shipped, I am going to leave it at $500 for each week. I do believe that at least for the first 2 weeks, I'll be able to hit $600. I am just not positive with Thanksgiving and my birthday coming up if I am going to be able to put in the same amount of hours that I did in October, and I don't want to budget the wrong amount. So I will keep $500 in the budget for right now for shipped. Reselling, I am not gonna include anything in the budget. Anything that I make from reselling will probably just go to savings or debt, or I'll split half and half. For November, my kids will be paying for their own cell phone plans. So their amounts, they vary depending on what they have on the plan and what they decided to keep after I told them they were paying. So that's what they will be sending me for the month of November. I am putting it in income because there is no deviation from that. Like, they can send me more, but they will not be sending me less. So that's going to be included there. Now we get into the monthly bills and the variable expenses. So as I had said, I was going to move my utilities from the variable expenses over to the monthly bills. So I have them listed here now. But we'll start with the mortgage. My mortgage for November, it's $2,822. This will be the last month that I have to pay this amount. Going into December, it will be about $600 less. My HOA is $308. My car, I gotta move that to $659. My gas bill, it went up last month, so I have to change the budget amount to $88. Electricity is $106. My water bill also went up, and that will now be $63. My cell phone bill for November, I am not exactly sure what it's going to be because I am getting refunded for some of the services that I canceled early. The estimate is about $390 for November. For December, it will go up a little bit because I won't have those credits. The new amount will be about like $412. So I did take off $100 from my cell phone bill. For November, we are going to budget $390. My Comcast security, I am rounding up to 70, T-Mobile internet 70, my medical payment plan is 72. I am no longer paying for Affirm, so I am removing those. And I will clean this up a little bit better later. eBay, we are keeping that at $22. The Vendu subscription, we're reducing it from $50 to $25. The gym membership, we are removing that. Car wash, we are removing that. Spotify, we are reducing to $17. And Netflix, unfortunately, we are going up to $27. This subscription and Canva and this one and this one and this one, we are deleting that. This one here, we will be moving down to the debt section. So I am going to delete it for right now. iStorage will be reduced to $42. And then we are removing the Lash subscription. So those are all the things that I have removed from the budget going into November as far as my fixed expenses. What I am adding though are the things that I forgot about, which is my Google Nest subscription, which is $10, Google Storage, which is $2, and the other Google Storage, which is $3. So that's an additional $15. That does bring my fixed expenses for November to $4,796. Now we are going to go into the variable expenses. I'm leaving groceries at $800. I am actively working to reduce that, but for right now, we are going to keep $800. For the gas for my car, I will reduce to $450. For water delivery, because I am still unsure of what that bill is going to look like, I am going to reduce it to $30. I do think it'll be more like $25, but I don't want to budget that incorrectly. So we are going to leave it at $30 for right now. My nails, I am going to put $40. I don't know if I'm going to have to pay anything. My birthday's this month. And maybe it's wishful thinking, but I do think I'll get a gift card. But if I don't, then I will need the $40 to buy the supplies to do the press-on nails for my birthday. Dining, I'm gonna leave that at $200. I know I came under and I probably could reduce it a little bit. However, it is my birthday month. It is Thanksgiving, although I don't think we're going out for Thanksgiving. We'll probably make food at home, but I do want to just keep the $200 in there for November. This line item, I am going to be moving down to debt payments, so I'm going to take that out. And for these two line items, I'm not really sure how I'm going to categorize these just yet, because I don't know, like some of it is household supplies and some of it is, just random things that I need. So I think what I'm going to do is, because I don't have a big fund for personal care, I'm going to put the $50 here. If I need to get anything for like shampoo, all those things, it'll come out of this $50. Otherwise, whatever is left over from this amount, I will put into my personal care sinking fund. And then this will be, I will leave this for household supplies, and we will reduce this to $75, and we'll see how that goes. I do have a line item here for unplanned expenses. Because of the way the transaction tracker works, I need to have that there in order to be able to categorize an item as unplanned. I am not going to budget for unplanned expenses because then it wouldn't be unplanned, right? But I'm going to leave that line item there. Okay, so then the next change that I made was in the savings section. I decided to put in some sinking funds that I'm going to start saving for. So I put an emergency fund, which is those $700, and I have a just in case fund, which I am going to bring over $500 from October. And then I have vehicle maintenance, personal care, which I put $500 in October. I am starting one for birthdays and holidays, and I know I'm a little behind. For Christmas, we are not doing anything big for Christmas. I do have 2 grandchildren, and I will be buying them Christmas presents, and I will probably buy my kids something small. So I do want to save in November and a little bit in the beginning of December to be able to cover that. I don't have anything in there now, but I have that line item because in November I do plan on saving some, and I want to start a sinking fund for home maintenance. I put on here just so that we can have some visibility. I don't have a lot of money in retirement. I do have a 401k and a 403b, and I put those current amounts there. Currently in my 401k, I have $46,201, and in my 403, I have $25,574. And I will just track that every month as I add in contributions. So that's my savings setup. And then I do have my debt here. So my Chase amount, I have 145. My Capital One did go up to 141 because I repurposed the reimbursement. Instead of paying off what was supposed to go to my Capital One, I pay off my Affirm and my Express accounts. My Nordstrom payment did go down to, I believe it was 85. My PayPal went down to 135. TJ Maxx is 42. My Express, I don't know what the new payment is going to be, but I'm going to keep it at 65. Sephora 60. My Apple Card, I am moving to 75 that I'm going to pay a month. And I have the $50 here. And then I moved that Gem Med Spa payment down to debt. I owe $654. I am paying for $40 a month on that. So now we can go to November and see what November is looking like so far. So I know November doesn't look amazing, but it still looks better than October. If you remember, in October, my left to budget amount was negative. What I was making in October was less than what I was spending or what I was planning to spend. This time, I have gotten it down to what I'm planning on making in November will cover everything that I'm planning on spending in November. I do have a starting amount that I'm bringing over from my October income, and that is $3,739. This is the money that is left over from my October paycheck that I had already committed to using to pay my mortgage. This is not including the money that I saved. So after I put in my savings, I have this left over. Now, could I probably pay off my whole Express card? Yes, and I probably will, but this is how it feels comfortable to me. This now brings me to $3,880 left to budget. I am going to leave this filled in the way that it is now. I am not going to add any savings into this tracker. So what I did is I went to go budget my November paychecks in the paper format because that's what works for me. I like to see my November spending here. I like to add everything at the end of the month to see what I had planned to spend and what my actual was. But when it comes down to the actual paycheck that I'm getting, I just feel that it's just easier for me to see in paper. As I went over in my last video, I did my November calendar already, and I had my first paycheck budget tracker completed. And so I have both of them completed for the 2 pay periods in November. And also, I do want to make a shout out for whoever recommended erasable pens. I love you. I mean, my daughter was kind of upset at me because she said that she told me about them and I do not remember. So whoever mentioned it in the comments that kind of woke me up to erasable pens, I did get some. Probably spent more than I needed to on them, but I am in love with these erasable pens, and that's what I've been using. Obviously not on my first one because I have it all crossed out. But anyway, and what I decided to do is I am going to, on the second half of every month, decide what I'm going to put into savings. That may not be what everyone is supposed to do. That may not be following, the rules, but that's what works for me and the way my brain works. I am not sure how much I want to put into savings in the beginning of the month, at least not yet. I don't trust myself enough yet to say I am going to put this much into savings, because if I don't at the end of the month, I am going to be really hard on myself. So it's easier for me to say how much I think I'm going to put with my second paycheck. And that's where the paycheck budget works for me, because I can then look forward and say, okay, this paycheck I'm paying this amount, this paycheck I'm paying this amount, and at the end of the month, this is what I should have left over. And so I have listed here what I'm planning to save and where I am going to plan to send extra debt payments to. So for the month of November, I am planning to save around $450 into savings. I'm going to put $100 in my emergency fund. I am going to put $50 in my personal care fund, $200 into birthday and holiday, and $50 into each of home maintenance and vehicle maintenance. I am not going to put anything in just in case because I already have $500 there, and that's what I am going to keep for right now. And then if I need more or I dip into that $500, then I will replenish it the next month up to $500. And I may eventually up that to $1,000, but I'm going to keep it at $500 right now and just see how that works. My focus for November as far as debt payment is to pay off my Express card. Money that I have left is going to go to pay off Sephora. So that's where I'm at. And again, I don't know if this was confusing. I don't know if you're able to follow along. I know this is so messy, and I just want to share what my thought process is and how I'm doing this. I am not perfect. I am not perfect by any means. And you might be looking at what I'm doing and think that I am just like clueless. And you know what? I might be. I might be clueless. I am doing my best to figure this out in a method and a format that works for me and what I have to pay. And right now, every month is fluctuating. So I am making so many changes into what I am paying for and the amounts that it is not really a strict budget just yet. I am hoping going into January, I will have something a little bit more solid that will be almost the same every month, and I can plan a little bit better. But for right now, I know November is very different than October, and I also know that December is going to be very different than November. I also get 3 paychecks in December. I do believe that I will be able to pay more off in December as well. I'm sorry if I confused anybody, but that's where I'm at. I'm feeling really good about my progress so far. I know I have ways to go, but I think I've made some very good progress. At least I feel that way. You may or may not agree with me. But from where I was 5 weeks ago, I feel like I'm making decent progress. I am happy with where I'm at currently. I just know that the next few months, I will be in a better place. I do have some plans for some next videos, and I will be sharing them soon. Feel free to subscribe so that I can share these updates with you and share my progress. With that, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I'll see you soon. Bye.